Despite the world's more than $85 trillion economy, poverty remains a stark reality for millions of people globally. The World Bank estimates that approximately 719 million people of the world's population live below the international poverty line, which is $2.15 a day. In this video, we'll explore the top 10 poorest countries in the world, where political instability, conflicts, natural disasters, and lack of development have led to some of the most severe cases of poverty and economic hardships. These countries are ranked on the basis of their GDP per capita, sourced from the IMF. GDP per capita is widely used as a measure of a country's economic prosperity, which shows how much money each individual would have if the country's total wealth were divided equally among its population. To gain a deeper understanding of the complexities of poverty, we've also discussed the causes of poverty, percentage of population living below international poverty line, and the situation of hunger in each country. Number 10. Yemen. Yemen is located on the Arabian Peninsula in Western Asia. The country has a diverse landscape of rugged mountains, fertile valleys, and arid deserts. Yemen's economy is heavily dependent on oil exports and remains one of the poorest in the world due to the humanitarian crisis caused by devastating wars and conflicts. Despite possessing significant oil and gas reserves, Yemen has a low GDP per capita of $2,000. Yemen's economy has failed to make significant progress, with 19.8% of its population, nearly 1 in 5 people, still struggling to survive below the poverty line. Yemen ranked 123rd out of 125 countries in the 2023 Global Hunger Index, indicating an alarming level of hunger and food insecurity in the country. Approximately 35% of Yemen's population suffers from undernourishment, and nearly 50% children under the age of 5 suffer from stunted growth due to chronic malnutrition. Moreover, Yemen ranked 186th out of 193 countries in the UN's Human Development Index, indicating a critical level of developmental challenges in areas of life expectancy, education, and income. The major causes of poverty in Yemen include political instability and conflict, water scarcity, dependence on declining oil resources, corruption, and a lack of economic diversification. Number 9. Madagascar. Madagascar is the world's 5th largest island, situated in the Indian Ocean off the coast of southern Africa. The country has a unique geography marked by diverse ecosystems, including rainforests, deserts, plateaus, and mountains. The economy of Madagascar is primarily driven by the agriculture sector, with major exports including vanilla, coffee, and cocoa. Madagascar is often depicted as a lush and vibrant island paradise in animated movies like the popular Madagascar. However, the real-life island nation struggles with stark poverty and hunger crises, with over 80% of its population living below the poverty line. Despite its vast agriculture and natural resource potential, the country has a low GDP per capita of only $1,980 and remains one of the poorest in the world. Madagascar ranked 124th out of 125 countries in the 2023 Global Hunger Index and is categorized as a country with an alarming level of food insecurity and hunger. According to World Bank report, in Madagascar, only 54.4% of the population has access to basic water services, and only 12.3% of the population has access to basic sanitation services. Madagascar ranked 177th out of 193 countries in the United Nations Human Development Index, indicating low human development in the country. The majority of Malagasy people are entrenched in a vicious cycle of poverty, struggling to fulfill their most basic needs, such as food, clean water, and housing. Number 8. Liberia. Liberia, a country located in Western Africa, is the only black state in Africa that has never been subjected to colonial rule. The economy of Liberia is largely driven by the agriculture sector, with major exports including rubber, coffee, and cocoa. The country also has significant deposits of natural resources, including iron ore, gold, and diamonds. Despite its natural resources, the country has a low GDP per capita of $1,880 and remains one of the poorest countries in the world. Although Liberia has made significant progress in rebuilding and recovering from the ravages of a devastating civil war, the country still grapples with widespread poverty, with nearly 28% of its population struggling to survive below the poverty line. Liberia ranked 117th out of 125 countries in the 2023 Global Hunger Index, indicating an alarming level of hunger and food insecurity in the country. According to UNICEF, despite abundant water resources in Liberia, 90% of its population has limited access to safe and clean drinking water. Number 7. Malawi. Malawi is a landlocked country located in southeastern Africa, with a geography featuring highlands, lakes, and valleys. Malawi was under British colonial rule from 1891 to 1964, during which the British exerted control over the country's politics, economy, and culture. With a GDP per capita of $1,710, the country remains one of the poorest in the world, with an alarming 70.1% of its population living below the poverty line. More than two-thirds of its population is trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty that has been difficult to break. Malawi ranks 88th out of 125 countries in the Global Hunger Index, GHI, indicating a serious level of hunger and food insecurity in the country. About 35% of children under 5 years old suffer from stunted growth due to malnutrition, and 17% of the population lacks access to enough food for a healthy life. Malawi's ranking of 172 out of 193 countries in the United Nations Human Development Index indicates a low level of human development in the country. The country is struggling to meet its citizens' basic needs, including access to food, clean water, healthcare, education, and sanitation, with many facing poverty, hunger, and poor living conditions. Number 6. Niger. Niger is a landlocked country located in West Africa, characterized by a vast desert landscape, with 80% of its territory covered by the Sahara Desert. Despite its abundant natural resources and economic potential, the country's GDP per capita stands at just $1,670, making it one of the poorest nations globally. The country is struggling with significant development challenges, including political instability, corruption, and limited access to education and healthcare services. An alarming 50.6% of its population struggles to survive below the international poverty line, indicating a severe and widespread poverty crisis in the country. Almost half of the children under the age of 5 in Niger have stunted growth due to malnutrition, as reported by Global Hunger Index. The major causes of poverty in Niger include political instability, limited access to quality education, rapid population growth, and a heavy reliance on subsistence agriculture. All such factors have trapped millions of people in the vicious cycle of poverty, struggling to access basic necessities like food, water, and shelter. Number 5. Mozambique. Mozambique, a country located in southeastern Africa, has a history marked by Portuguese colonization, which lasted until 1975. After independence, the country was ravaged by a devastating civil war from 1977 to 1992, which resulted in political instability, economic challenges, and widespread poverty. With a GDP per capita of $1,650, Mozambique has made some progress in recent years, but the country is still grappling with significant development challenges, including poverty and inequality. A massive 74.5% of the country's population lives below the poverty line and struggles to make ends meet. Mozambique ranked 113th out of 125 countries in the Global Hunger Index, indicating a serious hunger situation in the country, which shows that a significant portion of the population lacks access to sufficient food and adequate nutrition. About 30% of Mozambique population is undernourished and around 37% children below age 5 are stunted. Mozambique ranked 183 out of 193 countries in the UN's Human Development Index, which indicates a low level of healthcare, living standard, and education in the country. The widespread poverty in Mozambique is attributed to its tumultuous history, lack of economic diversification, high corruption, and heavy reliance on agriculture, which have collectively hindered the majority of the population from escaping the vicious cycle of poverty. Number 4. Congo Democratic Republic. Located in Central Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo is the largest country in sub-Saharan Africa and covers a land area roughly the size of Western Europe. The country has a long history of conflict and political instability, including a devastating civil war that ravaged the country until 2003. Despite boasting an abundance of natural resources, including vast mineral reserves, hydropower potential, and fertile land, the country has a low GDP per capita of just $1,550. The economic development of the country continues to be hindered by political instability, corruption, and infrastructure challenges, resulting in a staggering 78.9% of its population living below the poverty line. Moreover, the country ranked 122nd out of the 125 countries in the Global Hunger Index, indicating that the country has an alarming level of hunger. About 35% of its population suffering from undernourishment and a staggering 42% of children under the age of 5 experiencing stunted growth due to poor nutrition. The country ranked 180 out of 193 countries in the UN's Human Development Index, which indicates the people are struggling with critical healthcare issues, inadequate living standards, and limited access to quality education. This widespread poverty and hunger in Democratic Republic of Congo is largely attributed to a combination of factors, including political instability, corruption, poor governance, lack of infrastructure, limited access to education and heavy reliance on agriculture. Number 3. Central African Republic. The Central African Republic is a landlocked country in Central Africa that has a tumultuous history marked by political instability, devastating civil wars, and widespread violence. The country's economy is primarily based on agriculture, with 70 to 75% of the working population engaged in subsistence farming. Despite its abundant natural resources, the country is struggling with one of the lowest GDP per capita in the world, at $1,120. The depth of the country's political instability and poverty is evident from the fact that a massive 65.7% of its population, which accounted for 2/3 of its citizens, live in extreme poverty and struggle to access basic services like education, healthcare, and clean water. The country ranked 125th out of 125 countries in the Global Hunger Index, which indicates that the country has a severe hunger crisis. Nearly half of its population, around 48%, lacks access to enough food, and 40% of children under 5 years old have stunted growth. The country ranked 191 out of 193 countries in the UN's Human Development Index, which indicates severe human development crises in areas like healthcare, education, and living standards. Poverty in the Central African Republic is driven by multiple factors such as political instability, violence, corruption, dependence on international aid, and heavy reliance on agriculture. Number 2. Burundi. Burundi is a small, landlocked nation situated in the heart of East Africa. The country has a tumultuous history of ethnic conflict and political instability, including a civil war that lasted from 1993 to 2005. Burundi has a low GDP per capita of $915.88, which shows that the country's economy is severely underdeveloped, which limits its ability to provide basic services and improve living standards for its population. This terrible economic situation is reflected in the fact that more than half of Burundi's population, 62.07%, lives below the poverty line. According to the 2023 Global Hunger Index, Burundi's hunger situation is classified as alarming, with a staggering 55% of children under the age of 5 suffering from stunting due to chronic malnutrition. The country ranked 187 out of 193 countries in the UN's Human Development Index, which indicates Burundi's severe human development crises. Poverty in Burundi is largely driven by factors such as political instability, corruption, ethnic conflicts, heavy reliance on agriculture, and high population growth rate. Number 1. South Sudan. South Sudan is a landlocked country in East Africa that gained independence from Sudan in 2011, making it the world's youngest nation. Despite its significant oil reserves and potential for economic growth, the country has a GDP per capita of only $455.16, indicating that it is one of the poorest countries globally. A staggering 67.33% of its population, nearly 7 out of 10 people, live below the international poverty line. According to the Global Hunger Index, more than 1 in 5 people in South Sudan, equivalent to 21.4% of its population, suffer from undernourishment. The country ranked 192 out of 193 countries in the UN's Human Development Index, which indicates severe human development crises in areas like healthcare, education, and living standards. South Sudan's pervasive poverty is the result of multiple factors, including political instability, corruption, and internal conflicts, which have disrupted the country's agriculture, infrastructure, and social services. 9 out of the top 10 poorest countries in the world are located on the African continent. This stark reality highlights the significant development challenges and economic struggles that many African nations continue to face. Poverty in Africa is perpetuated by multiple factors, such as political instability, corruption, weak governance, the legacy of colonialism, and limited access to education, among other factors. It's important to recognize that each country has unique challenges, and addressing poverty requires a thoughtful understanding of these challenges and develop targeted solutions.